Tom Hanks' secret act of kindness changes a family's life forever. Heartwarming Christmas story. Beneath the glow of a single lamppost in a sleepy Illinois town, a boy's love for his mother sparked a Christmas miracle that would ripple through decades. Imagine a gift so powerful it didn't just light a room, it reignited dreams, reunited strangers, and rebuilt futures. This isn't just a story about a lantern or a Hollywood star who stepped out of the silver screen. It's about the invisible threads of kindness that bind us all, and the moment one child's courage changed everything. If you believe in the magic of second chances, smash that subscribe button and join us as we unravel this tale of hope, heart, and the extraordinary power of ordinary love. The town of Springfield, Illinois was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. Nestled between rolling hills and vast cornfields, it had a charm that only small towns could offer. Life here moved at a slower pace, with the hum of cicadas in the summer and the crunch of snow under boots during winter. For 12-year-old Liam Carter, this was home, a quiet, predictable world where change came slowly if at all. But within Liam's heart burned a fire far brighter than any neon sign or city skyline could ever ignite. That fire was his love for his mother, Emily. Emily Carter was a woman who wore her strength like an invisible cloak. At 42, she carried herself with grace despite the weight of life's challenges on her shoulders. Widowed before Liam was born, she had raised him alone, working tirelessly as a florist to make ends meet. Her shop, Emily's Blooms, stood at the corner of Main Street, its windows always adorned with fresh arrangements that seemed to whisper stories of hope and resilience. To Liam, his mother wasn't just a parent. She was his hero, his confidant, and the person who taught him what it meant to truly care for others. Their bond was unshakable, forged through shared moments both ordinary and extraordinary. One memory stood out vividly in Liam's mind, a snowy evening 5 years ago when he was only 7. They had walked together down the deserted streets of Springfield, bundled up in scarves and gloves, admiring the glow of streetlights reflected off the freshly fallen snow. It was then that Emily pointed to one particular lamppost, its light shimmering like a diamond against the dark sky. "See that, Liam?" she had said softly. "Even in the coldest nights, there's always light to guide us." That moment stayed with Liam, becoming a symbol of their connection. Now as Christmas approached, he found himself thinking about it more and more. This year he wanted to give his mother something special, something that would remind her of those magical evenings they'd spent together. And so, after weeks of saving every penny from his paper route, Liam finally had enough money to buy the perfect gift, a crystal lantern he'd seen displayed in the window of Mr. Thompson's antique shop. The lantern was exquisite, its delicate design catching the light in ways that made it look almost otherworldly. When Liam first saw it, he felt certain it was meant for Emily. It wasn't just a decorative piece, it was a vessel of memories, a way to bring back the warmth of their past while lighting the path forward. But as he stood outside the shop, staring longingly at the lantern, doubt began to creep in. The price tag read $250, a staggering amount for someone whose entire savings barely reached $300. Could he really afford it? Would it be enough? These questions swirled in Liam's mind as he hesitated, clutching the wad of crumpled bills in his pocket. He imagined the look on Emily's face when she unwrapped the gift, but alongside that image came a nagging fear. What if she didn't like it? What if it wasn't meaningful enough? Just as Liam was about to step inside the shop, the door swung open and a man walked out. He was dressed casually in a faded t-shirt and baseball cap, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Something about him seemed familiar, though Liam couldn't quite place it. The man paused near the window display, frowning at the lantern before turning to argue with Mr. Thompson, the shopkeeper, over some trivial matter about a returned item. Liam watched silently, disappointment washing over him. This couldn't be the famous Tom Hanks, could it? The actor known for his kindness and charm on screen looked nothing like his usual self today. Instead of radiating warmth, he appeared gruff and impatient, his voice rising slightly as he gestured toward the counter. "Chang ai jong trong fim ca." Liam muttered under his breath, shaking his head. Translated, it meant, "No one is like they are in the movies." His initial excitement dimmed further as he realized how much pressure he was under, not just financially, but emotionally. Buying the lantern felt less like a gesture of love and more like a gamble. But little did Liam know, this encounter with the seemingly irritable stranger would set off a chain of events neither of them could have anticipated. As the chilly December wind swept through the streets of Springfield, carrying whispers of snowflakes yet to fall, Liam took a deep breath and stepped into the shop, ready to take the first leap toward what would become the most unforgettable Christmas of his life. The bell above Mr. Thompson's antique shop door jingled softly as Liam stepped inside, his heart pounding with a mix of determination and anxiety. The warmth of the store enveloped him immediately, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. Shelves lined with curiosities, old clocks, porcelain figurines, and faded photographs created an atmosphere that felt both timeless and slightly mysterious. But Liam's eyes were fixed on one thing, the crystal lantern sitting proudly in the center display. Its intricate pattern shimmered under the soft glow of overhead lights, casting delicate shadows across the wooden counter. "Can I help you, young man?" Mr. Thompson asked, peering over his glasses with a kindly smile. Liam hesitated for a moment, clutching the crumpled bills tighter in his pocket. I want to buy that lantern," he said, pointing toward the object of his desire. His voice wavered slightly, betraying the weight of his decision. Before Mr. Thompson could respond, the gruff voice of Tom Hanks interrupted. "That thing? You're really going to waste your money on something so flashy?" Liam turned sharply, his cheeks flushing with indignation. There stood Tom Hanks, or at least someone who looked remarkably like him, leaning casually against a shelf, arms crossed. Gone was the affable charm that had made him a household name. Instead, there was an edge of cynicism in his tone that caught Liam off guard. "It's not flashy," Liam retorted, his voice rising despite himself. "It's for my mom. She loves things like this." Tom raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Oh sure. Because nothing says thoughtful gift like a hunk of glass that'll probably gather dust in 6 months. Liam clenched his fists, frustration bubbling up inside him. Who was this guy to judge? He didn't know anything about Emily or their life together. "You don't understand," Liam snapped. "It's not just some random thing. It reminds her of something important, something special." For a brief moment, Tom's expression softened, though it quickly returned to its default skepticism. "Special, huh? Tell me then. What makes it so special?" And so, reluctantly, Liam began to speak. At first, his words came haltingly, but as he talked about Emily, the way she worked tirelessly at her flower shop, the stories she told him about teaching preschoolers before financial struggles forced her to quit, the quiet strength she showed every day, his voice grew steadier. He described the snowy evening they'd walked through Springfield, how Emily had pointed out the lamppost and spoken about finding light even in the darkest times. By the time he finished, there was a strange silence in the room. Tom studied Liam carefully, his earlier mockery replaced by something akin to curiosity. "So let me get this straight," he said slowly. "You think buying this lantern will somehow capture all those memories? All that love?" "Yes," Liam replied firmly, though doubt still lingered in his chest. Tom sighed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. For a moment he seemed lost in thought, his gaze distant. Then, without another word, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, worn notebook. Its cover was faded, the edges frayed from years of use. He handed it to Liam. "What's this?" Liam asked, turning the book over in his hands. "It belonged to my wife," Tom explained, his voice softer now. "Back when we were kids, she used to write down everything, her dreams, her fears, her hopes for the future. She always said that the best gifts aren't the ones you can hold in your hand. They're the ones that remind people of who they are." Liam frowned, unsure what to make of the gesture. "But what does this have to do with my mom?" Tom smiled faintly, a hint of sadness flickering in his eyes. "Maybe more than you realize. Sometimes the most meaningful presents aren't bought, they're created. Think about it, kid. Does your mom really need a fancy lantern, or does she need to be reminded of why she's incredible?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Liam stared at the notebook, feeling a strange mixture of confusion and clarity. Was Tom right? Had he been focusing too much on the material aspect of the gift and not enough on its emotional significance? As if sensing Liam's inner turmoil, Tom added, "Listen, I didn't mean to come off as a jerk earlier. Life's taught me a few things about giving and receiving that I wish someone had told me when I was your age. If you're serious about making this Christmas unforgettable for your mom, maybe start by telling her story. Let the world see how amazing she is." With that, Tom nodded curtly and headed toward the exit, leaving Liam standing there with the notebook clutched tightly in his hands. As the door closed behind him, Liam glanced back at the lantern, its glittering surface no longer holding the same allure. The encounter with Tom Hanks left Liam feeling both unsettled and intrigued. As he walked home, the worn notebook tucked safely under his arm, his mind raced with questions. Who was this man really? Why had he gone from mocking Liam's choice of gift to offering cryptic advice, and a mysterious notebook, no less? Most importantly, what did it all mean for his plan to surprise Emily on Christmas? When Liam arrived at their modest house on Maple Street, Emily was in the kitchen, humming softly as she arranged bouquets for the next day's deliveries. Her hands moved with practiced ease, weaving stems and leaves into vibrant creations that seemed almost alive. Watching her, Liam felt a pang of guilt. He had been so focused on the lantern that he hadn't stopped to consider whether it truly reflected who his mother was, or what she needed most right now. "Hey, kiddo," Emily greeted him warmly, glancing up from her work. "How was your day?" "It was okay," Liam replied hesitantly. He wanted to tell her everything: the argument with Tom, the notebook, the strange conversation, but something held him back. Instead, he forced a smile and said, "Just thinking about Christmas." Emily's eyes lit up. "Oh, me too. I can't wait to see what you've got planned. You always come up with the best surprises." Her words only deepened Liam's resolve to get it right this time. But how? Later that evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Liam sat cross-legged on the floor of his room, flipping through the pages of the notebook Tom had given him. At first glance it seemed ordinary, filled with scribbles, sketches, and fragments of poetry. But as he read more closely, patterns began to emerge. There were entries about dreams deferred, lessons learned, and moments of quiet triumph. One passage stood out in particular. "Sometimes we don't realize our worth until someone else sees it first. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give is helping others see themselves the way we do." Liam frowned, trying to piece together the meaning behind these words. Was Tom hinting at something bigger than just buying a gift? His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his phone buzzing on the desk. It was a text message from Tom Hanks. "Meet me tomorrow at the library. Noon. Don't be late." Liam stared at the screen, stunned. How did Tom even have his number? More importantly, why did he want to meet again? The next day, Liam arrived at the Springfield Public Library exactly at noon, his curiosity outweighing his skepticism. Tom was already there, seated at a corner table surrounded by stacks of books and papers. Today, he looked slightly less disheveled, though his casual attire still contrasted sharply with the polished image of the Hollywood star Liam had grown up admiring. "You came," Tom said, looking up as Liam approached. "Yeah," Liam replied cautiously. "Why am I here?" Tom gestured for him to sit. "Because I owe you an explanation and maybe a little help." Over the next hour, Tom revealed parts of himself that Liam never would have guessed. Contrary to his gruff demeanor, Tom was deeply empathetic, shaped by years of hardship and loss. He explained that he had come to Springfield to visit his older sister, Margaret, who was recovering from a stroke. Their relationship had been strained for years, but seeing her vulnerability had reminded him of the importance of family and second chances. "I know what it's like to feel powerless," Tom admitted. "When my wife and I were struggling early in our marriage, she had to drop out of school because we couldn't afford tuition. She used to write down her dreams in that notebook you're holding. It kept her going during the darkest times." Liam listened intently, beginning to understand the weight of Tom's earlier advice. "But enough about me," Tom continued. "Let's talk about your mom. From what you told me, she sounds like an incredible woman. A teacher, huh? That's noble work." "She loved it," Liam said quietly. "But she had to quit when money got tight. She misses it, though." "I can tell." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "Then maybe it's time someone reminded her and everyone else just how valuable she is." He leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Here's the plan. There's a charity auction happening at the library next week. Normally, it's just local businesses donating items, but this year, they're inviting community members to share personal stories. Your mom should be one of them." Liam blinked, unsure where this was heading. "You want her to talk in front of people?" "Exactly," Tom said with a grin. "Not just talk, shine. Let her tell her story, let her inspire others. And trust me, when people hear about the sacrifices she's made, they'll want to support her. Including me." It took a moment for Liam to process the idea. It was bold, unconventional, and completely unlike anything he'd imagined. Yet, as he pictured Emily standing confidently before an audience, sharing her passion for teaching, he couldn't deny the appeal. "But what about the lantern?" Liam asked finally. Tom chuckled. "Leave that to me. Sometimes the best gifts aren't the ones you buy, they're the opportunities you create." The night of the charity auction arrived, blanketing Springfield in a crisp December chill. The library, usually a quiet sanctuary of books and whispers, had transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Strings of fairy lights twinkled from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over rows of tables adorned with donated items. At the center of it all stood Emily Carter, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the edges of the podium. Liam watched anxiously from the back of the room, his heart pounding in rhythm with the ticking clock. He had spent the past week convincing Emily to participate, assuring her that sharing her story would inspire others. But now, seeing her visibly nervous, he wondered if he'd pushed too hard. What if this wasn't what she wanted? What if she hated being in the spotlight? Tom Hanks sat a few rows ahead, his baseball cap pulled low over his face. To anyone else, he might have blended into the crowd, but Liam recognized the intensity in his posture, a man fully present, yet somehow distant. It was clear that Tom had more than a passing interest in tonight's events. Finally, the MC stepped up to introduce Emily. Next, we have a very special guest, Emily Carter, a former preschool teacher whose dedication to her students has left an indelible mark on our community. Please welcome her as she shares her journey. The applause was polite but hesitant, the kind reserved for someone unfamiliar to most attendees. Emily took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and began to speak. Thank you all for having me here tonight, she started, her voice soft but steady. I never imagined I'd be standing in front of so many people talking about myself. Teaching preschool wasn't just a job for me, it was my calling. There's something magical about working with young children, watching them discover the world for the first time. Every smile, every question, every little triumph felt like a gift. She paused, glancing down at her notes before continuing. But life doesn't always go as planned. Financial struggles forced me to leave teaching behind, and while I've found joy in other ways, like running my flower shop, I've always missed the classroom. Those kids taught me as much as I taught them, and I'll forever be grateful for that. As Emily spoke, something remarkable happened. The audience leaned forward, captivated by her sincerity. She recounted stories of helping shy children come out of their shells, of organizing field trips with limited resources, and of the bittersweet day she said goodbye to her last class. Her words painted a vivid picture of resilience, passion, and unwavering love for her work. When she finished, the room erupted into applause, not the polite kind from earlier, but a thunderous ovation that seemed to shake the walls. Tears glistened in Emily's eyes as she stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed by the response. Then came the moment Liam had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure, the auction of the crystal lantern. Mr. Thompson held it aloft, its facets catching the light and scattering rainbows across the room. We'll start the bidding at $500. He announced. Do I hear $500? A hand shot up immediately. Tom's. $1,000, he called out, his tone casual but commanding. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone else countered with $1,500. Then another bidder offered $2,000. The numbers climbed steadily, each new bid accompanied by gasps of disbelief. Liam watched in stunned silence as Tom continued to raise his paddle, his bids growing larger with every round. By the time the price reached $8,000, only one other bidder remained. A local business owner who eventually conceded with a grin. Going once, going twice. Mr. Thompson's voice rang out. Sold to Mr. Hanks for $10,000. The room erupted again, this time in awe rather than applause. Liam turned to look at Tom, who simply nodded toward Emily, a small smile playing on his lips. After the event, Tom approached Emily, holding out an envelope. Inside was a check made out to her name, along with a handwritten note. This isn't from me. It's from everyone who believes you deserve it. Emily stared at the check, her hands shaking. What is this for? It's for your dream, Tom replied gently. You inspired a lot of people, Emily. Some of them are here tonight, they're lawyers, doctors, teachers themselves. They remember how much you cared about them, and they want to help you return to the classroom. Tears streamed down Emily's face as the realization sank in. This wasn't just about money. It was validation, proof that her efforts hadn't gone unnoticed. For years she'd carried the weight of self-doubt, wondering if she'd made the right choices. Now, surrounded by strangers turned supporters, she finally felt seen. Later that evening, as Liam walked home with Emily, he couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. Everything had unfolded so differently from what he'd planned, and yet it felt exactly right. You know, Emily said softly, breaking the silence, I think this might be the best Christmas gift I've ever received. Liam smiled, thinking of the notebook still tucked safely in his drawer. Yeah, me too. 5 years had passed since that unforgettable Christmas night, and Springfield bore witness to a transformation unlike any other. Nestled at the edge of town, where once an abandoned lot stood, now rose Little Lights Preschool, a vibrant haven for young minds eager to explore the world. Its founder? None other than Emily Carter, whose dream of returning to teaching had finally come true thanks to the collective generosity sparked by a single evening at the library. The school's grand opening was set for a crisp December morning, a fitting tribute to the season that had changed everything. Streamers in shades of gold and green adorned the entrance, while balloons bobbed gently in the breeze. Inside, classrooms buzzed with excitement as parents and children mingled, their laughter filling the air like music. At the heart of it all stood Emily, her eyes shining brighter than ever before. Liam watched from the sidelines, pride swelling in his chest. Now 17, he had grown into a tall, confident young man who served as Emily's right-hand assistant. Together they had poured countless hours into making Little Lights a reality, from designing lesson plans to painting murals on the walls. But more than anything, Liam cherished the bond they shared, strengthened by the journey they'd taken together. As guests began to gather in the main hall for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Liam noticed a familiar figure slipping quietly through the crowd. It was Tom Hanks, still wearing his signature baseball cap but looking older, his hair streaked with silver. He caught Liam's eye and gave a small wave, mouthing the words, "You did good, kid." When it came time for speeches, Emily stepped up to the microphone, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. 5 years ago, she began, I never imagined I'd be standing here today, opening a school of my own. Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? When I left teaching, I thought that chapter of my life was over. But sometimes, when you least expect it, people step forward to remind you of your worth and give you the courage to chase your dreams again. She paused, scanning the room until her gaze landed on Tom. To some, this might seem like just another preschool. But to me, it's proof that kindness exists in unexpected places. To the person who started it all, thank you. You showed me that even in our darkest moments, there's always light waiting to guide us home. Her words drew murmurs of agreement from the audience, many of whom were former students or their families. Among them sat Dr. Sarah Bennett, one of Emily's earliest pupils, now a successful pediatrician. She smiled warmly, remembering how Emily's encouragement had inspired her to pursue medicine. After the ceremony, Liam found Tom lingering near the refreshment table, sipping coffee and observing the festivities with quiet satisfaction. You came, Liam said, approaching him. Tom nodded. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Liam hesitated, unsure how to express the depth of his gratitude. I don't know what to say except thank you. For everything. Tom chuckled softly. Don't thank me. Thank yourself and your mom. All I did was nudge things in the right direction. But why? Liam pressed. Why go out of your way to help us? For a moment, Tom's expression turned thoughtful. Because sometimes we need reminders too. Helping your mom reminded me of my own sister, Margaret. She passed away last year, you know. Seeing her struggle made me realize how important it is to lift others up, especially those who've been knocked down. Liam felt a lump rise in his throat. Despite Tom's gruff exterior, there was a tenderness beneath the surface that spoke volumes about the kind of man he truly was. Before leaving, Tom handed Liam an envelope. Inside was a letter addressed to Emily, written in Tom's unmistakable scrawl. Dear Emily, congratulations on Little Lights. It's clear you've touched countless lives, including mine. I used to think being good meant doing everything perfectly, but life taught me otherwise. Sometimes the greatest acts of kindness come wrapped in imperfection. A harsh word, a stubborn push, or even a little bit of chaos. Remember that the next time someone challenges you, they might just be helping you see the best version of yourself. With admiration, Tom Hanks. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the playground, Liam joined Emily outside. Together they admired the glowing sign above the school's entrance. Little Lights Preschool, where every child shines. You know, Emily said softly, I think this is exactly where we're meant to be. Liam smiled, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within him. The lantern that had once symbolized his love for her now hung proudly in the school's lobby. A reminder not only of their journey but also of the countless lives they hoped to illuminate in the years to come. And so, under the vast Illinois sky, mother and son stood side by side, ready to welcome a new generation into the warmth of their light.